मेरे बाबू ने खाना खाया क्या? But you know whatever is gonna make you happy.
You know what? Yeah. It's just that.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. Hi everyone, welcome to the Patriot podcast, where we give our views on the raging issues, from geopolitics to culture and everything in between. So let's get into today's topic.
Overall issues for both parties.
Basically, both sides I feel are also tied down to the financial freedom end of things, and where they feel either party might, in some form or the other, curtail said freedom. Girls might feel like they won't have the option of pursuing a career after marriage, and boys do end up feeling a lot of times that whatever they earn will be at the end, the expenses and whatnot will be controlled by the wives.
That's another thing, and that is both parties feel that they need to have their own money, otherwise they won't be able to afford their own indulgences.
Exactly. It's not look like a partnership, it's more look like a controller.
If you are going into a marriage by that system, it's not going to work. It's not
Definitely.
the family account and your personal account and this account and that account. No, it's one account. I'm not talking about bank accounts. What I mean
Exactly.
is,
Segregation of finances where you're like, I keep my salary, you keep yours, and you basically don't have that openness regarding your finances. That's one of the things that basically that's a nightmare scenario for so many young guys and girls, that on the financial end they'll lose
either they'll have
some or all of the control.
Either they'll have to carry the brunt of all the burden according to them, or that they'll lose control of finances, or they won't be able to
Even generate finances.
that too. But what is the purpose of generating finances? If the arrangement is such that one person will earn, the other will look after the house, okay? Or in some situations it is so that both people are earning for a certain amount of time and then spending certain amount of time on the house so that they can together take care. Certain households are such that you're earning, you have a job that requires more time, so you have house helps, that kind.
Yes.
But the main concern here stems from them feeling like they won't be able to buy things they want, essentially.
Exactly.
What they feel is, if my spouse wants a new phone, they're gonna get it because they're the one earning. If I want a new phone, I won't need it.
Basically, a lot of it boils down to answerability.
Yes.
Of you have finances that you are generating, and
Financial control, essentially.
exactly,
And financial
which
manipulation.
goes on both ends.
Both
So
sides.
many guys have this thing of, I have to basically bring back my salary and hand it over to the wife, and she'll manage however the house expense or whatever is run.
There's another point in these overall issues that both parties have, I find quite bogus, is they need time to figure themselves out, or they need time to find themselves. That's the same.
Discover their identity. Basically, so many people are like, I haven't experimented enough, I haven't been with enough guys /
That is a
girls,
very weird
and
phenomenon. That you have to be with more than one people. You have to experiment.
discover the options.
What are you trying to discover?
The problem simply boils down to that feeling that so many of guys and girls have currently, where they're like, there might be something better in the market, there might be some better option in some form or the other, there might be a guy who's earning better, there might be a person who's looking better. There's always some form of seeking out the better option.
Grass is always greener on the other side.
Exactly, and that's the problem. They don't want to commit because they're constantly living with this feeling of there might be something better. What if I
There's
settle?
another aspect to that. They overvalue themselves too. Let's say it's person X. Person X thinks that they are with person Y, but there might be somebody better. There might be person A who's way better than person Y.
Yeah.
But person X doesn't see that they're not valuable enough to person A. They are compatible with person Y. Right? If you're
Basically.
let's say there is somebody better, why would they choose you then?
That's what I mean. So many people are living in a deluded sense of self where they do not exactly understand who they truly are. And so they're over or underestimating their own worth and ending up wanting to choose the wrong person.
And that thing of over or undervaluing oneself also causes them to over or undervalue the relationship and the person they're choosing.
Yes. Again, I do feel, obviously, I'm not saying by no means, that rush into marriage and just, be done with it by the time you're like
Definitely.
22 or something or the other. Because, yes, it is necessary to understand yourself before you choose to commit for a lifetime, because how are you gonna know what you are committing to if you yourself do not have an understanding of who you actually are?
The issue that cited from both sides here is that they need time to discover themselves,
Yes.
and they need more time to experiment.
Well, the solution is not time.
If you experiment enough that you're very well experienced, you already are not going to get the people you would want.
Exactly.
The more the experience, the less desirable you are. And that goes both ways too.
Exactly. It's not just a girl's issue, it's both.
If you've had many
genders.
girlfriends, you're less desirable. If you've had many boyfriends, you're less desirable.
Again, it doesn't mean necessarily something's wrong with you, but if, let's say, if you've been through 5 failed relationships, and you've not processed through them enough to actually come out a better person at the end of the deal, and you're still trying to discover yourself, well, you're just a guy or a girl who's been through 5 failed relationships and you're just that much more broken.
The problem is you've not learned from your failures.
Yeah, you're that more
Yes,
broken.
if you haven't learned from why the last relationship didn't work out, then it was your failure. The failure to understand why it didn't work out.
Yeah, if you keep repeating the same pattern and in the guise of being like, I'm just giving myself time and trying to discover myself and go on this, absolutely cathartic experience of dating one person after the other, it's not gonna help.
As I said, the more experience you have, the less desirable you are.
Finding yourself is not about dating a multitude. What does any current era's guy or girl want? Their house to be managed, you know, they get good food in a timely fashion, their clothes, everything. Yeah, basically. Right. If their household is managed and other sort of, like relationship needs are met elsewhere, they don't need to exactly commit to one person for life. For house help, you can just literally get a house help.
I mean, that's their perspective. I do think they need to commit to one person for different reasons. The way you're framing it, I know that's not your view. The way you're framing it sounded like they don't need to.
No, I'm saying that's what they feel. That's their feeling. For both guys and girls, the feeling is we need our houses managed. We need certain base requirements on the home front met. And aside from that, in a emotional or relationship point of view, those certain needs can be met very easily. There are so many dating apps. What their point of view basically boils down to, why commit to one person when what that one person can apparently give can be done without the pain of commitment. Their commonalities are what I would describe as symptoms of what actually what is leading to that feeling where you're feeling like we're gonna be restricted and we're gonna lose our freedom and we don't need to commit because commitment supplies 2 to 3 things and I can always get them without committing to anyone.
I absolutely agree that these are just symptoms and not real actual issues. What are the real issues that cause these people not to marry? Number one, and causes failures of marriage. The crisis, the family crisis that we're seeing in the 21st century. The institution of marriage is made into a very clinical contract these days. It's no longer a partnership. As today's generation is trying to understand marriage, it's been made into a contract of convenience instead of a partnership for life.
And I see so many guys and girls who actually do want to get married, make this very serious folly.
What will I get out of this?
Exactly. Well, that's their whole point of view. What will I get out of it? And it is a exchange, a transaction.
If it's I have to do this because they did this, that's transactional. If it is they did this for me and I want to do something too, so I'll do this. That's love.
Basically, it's all about the point of view. It's all about if you are being so clinical and business-like about I did 5 things for you and I deserve 5 things in exchange, or that is what is owed to me. The moment you get into this mindset of
what is owed me.
Exactly. If I'm doing something for you, why am I not getting back in return this exact amount by either quantity or quality of task?
The moment the sacrifice is used to gain something, even a feeling.
Yes.
That is the moment where the sacrifice becomes a transaction. Where you spend something to earn something. You spend that pain and suffering, you spend that money, you spend that effort. If you're making a sandwich, to spend your time and effort to get a compliment, to have that little touching in the bank so that next time when you want something done, you can cite that sandwich.
I did this for you.
Now so I want something like that. No, that's a transaction. It's not like only girls make sandwiches. It's bread, something in between. Yeah. If you're assigning value to every single aspect of your personality.
Yes. Quantifying your personality or achievements in some form or the other.
You're writing a slavery contract, I guess, because you're valuing your human life, you're valuing your qualification and everything as to what it can be sold for.
If that's the mindset you have going into it,
that is before you ever look at the person you're going to marry. That is before anything.
That's your idea
That
of-
is how you start to look
Exactly.
for a marriage partner.
Exactly. That's how you look at the setup. That's how you view a marriage. That's why so many people don't want to be married.
Then it will be a
or
contract.
the ones who do end up married with that sort of a mindset,
It's not the best.
It's a
not
sorry
the most
state.
fun
Yeah.
relationship. This is the lens through which they look at marriage. The contractual nature that they perceive of this sacred institution, and that is one underlying problem, and that causes other problems.
Aside from obviously it flows into the whole thing of viewing a marriage as a barter system, is that so many people go into a marriage looking at it through Bollywood lovey-dovey lens, where they're every day will be a movie and you'll get woken up by birds singing outside your window or whatnot.
They've all seen the Babu Sona couples.
Yes, and the thing is, it goes for both love and arranged marriages, because there are so many people who are deluded in both the situations. In love marriages, I've seen a lot of people feel like we as a boyfriend and girlfriend had a very kuchi-mushi talks and conversations and very lovey-dovey and surface level. So that is what will continue throughout life, as if there is just love to a marriage.
There is also a whole bunch of love, but it takes different shapes. Sometimes saying, "Hey babe, don't do that," is love. Sometimes saying, "I think you should do this," is love. Sometimes, "I need you to step up," is love. Sometimes it's not even saying anything, it's just doing a thing. That's love.
Lovey-dovey stuff only goes so far. Obviously, you are getting into a marriage, you love each other. Love marriage people I have seen getting deluded so badly because they think all that their life was during a relationship is what will continue afterwards. Meanwhile, arranged marriage people who have been waiting for that sort of a commitment have assumptions of undying forever love, and come what may, we will always just be nice and loving to each other.
Or there's another thing of they've never had that, then they got into an arranged marriage and they expect that, they want that, but they're too shy to initiate it. The issue here is not even that they have this lovey-dovey thing and that they think it will stay forever. It can definitely stay forever. Problem is, it still won't stay 24/7.
At the end, I think it's more about the fact that people are so focused on the Bollywood view of love and marriage, where I see so many girls do this thing of deliberately pouting and waiting for
that is just annoying.
the rootna manana, that sort of thing.
That's just annoying stuff.
I'm just saying that's
Guys
the sort
do
of
that
view.
too. Guys do that too, and that is, by the way, girls do that, it's annoying. Guys do that, you just nobody, and trust me, nobody wants to see that.
People have very deluded views about relationships and marriage as a whole,
And how
because
your
of,
day-to-day is going to work.
and that is why it becomes such a critical situation when you're eventually married and you realize, oh, it's not all about going doing the love you every second of the day, because you have your own responsibilities and he has his own responsibilities, and you both have to manage responsibilities along with your relationship.
This common trope of please eat the food in different ways. Babu, please eat the food. Shona, please eat the food.
Whole thing of did you I don't want to do the mere babu ne khana khaya kya, but
Okay.
but that
Yeah.
their idea is it's just about love. No, it's not. It's loving your partner.
The reasoning behind it gets directly into our next problem with this setup.
Yes.
Which is, they don't think about the relationship. They don't think about the other person. They're too me focused.
About the Bollywood delusions of people, there is also this factor that everyone automatically assumes, be it a guy or a girl with this sort of a delusion, that everything will be going according to their own whims and fancies.
Yes.
Like, I want things a certain way. I want
Exactly.
my spouse to wake me up with breakfast in bed, and apparently that's gonna happen every freaking day. No, it's not.
Each party has certain habits that the other party does not like. What you need to do is mitigate problems and adjust accordingly. For example, after eating, take the plates back to the sink.
Yep.
Right?
Very
Put the plates
basic
in the
stuff,
sink.
but
That,
yeah.
Let's assume that, right? Because that's also a common issue among guys, which also irks me.
Yeah,
So
because just like pull your weight.
yes, but let's just say that simple thing. Now, let's say you tell your significant other to do that over the call during your relationship and in a lovey-dovey and cute fashion. It ain't gonna happen very lovey-dovey and cute when it's happening in real life
Oh yeah.
for the 15th time. When you have to take the plate of it, when you have to take his plate of it.
That leads to my next point, which is misleading or deluding your partner before marriage on what your expectations or behaviors are. which is again another big root cause, because when you're committing to a marriage and you have a certain, a brain map regarding how it's going to go and what your spouse is actually going to be.
Once you try to be somebody else just so the other person would like you, how long do you think that's going to work out?
That's a rolling stone, pun intended. But you say that for tiny things in life. You say that for what cuisine you prefer, what kind of clothes you wear, what kind of life you want after you are getting married. Bigger stuff on how you want to raise kids and so on and so forth, which in itself is a very rare conversation amongst
that's another
potential
issue,
spouses.
but we'll get to that one.
Yeah, but my point is, so many people just go along with the other person's
Whatever.
idea.
It's just-
Whatever's going to make you happy.
You know what it goes like? Yeah. It's just that.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Because,
I really like this person and I don't want to say or do anything that's going to mess up the potentiality of this turning into something permanent. I'll just go along with whatever is going to get me to that finish line.
And that ironically is the thing that makes sure that it will not turn into something permanent, and if it does, it's going to be a problem.
It won't stay permanent.
It won't stay permanent. For example, if you say a tiny little white lie to your significant other, and then 5 years go by, and then you marry, and then 2 more years go by, and then your significant other figures out, oh, you don't like your coffee this way, you like it this way. And you have lied to me for 7 years.
Exactly. That is more heartbreaking to the other person to realize they've been the subject of a lie for so long. Instead of right in the beginning, you'd be like, hey, you like your coffee this way, I like mine the other way. Like, cool, good to know.
These tiny little white lies, which inevitably will be called, sow the seeds of doubt.
And they know that your relationship.
Yes, and then slowly. It goes both ways. When you both lie, you both will not be able to trust each other. And that's where then, even if you had the perfect relationship, you start keeping your money away, you start doing things separately, you start giving taunts to each other behind their backs. This kind of behavior, the same broken cycle of the previous generation repeats again. Once you start lying to make them happy for that 5 seconds, you make them sad for the next 5 years.
Exactly. And every single white lie or intentional bigger lies is basically a chisel just slowly chipping away at the pillar of your relationship. Eventually, you're just going to be left with dust and a bunch of chips.
That's a very lame masonry joke.
Yes.
I've seen this issue permeate through many marriages, working, non-working, semi-working, all sorts of. And this issue irks me very much. Counting your birth family, your parents, over your spouse, or siblings, over your spouse. See, I'm not saying don't.
Just shun them and
not at all. They have their own space, they have their own place, and you must pay them that respect. If it's your parent, you need to treat them like your parent.
Sometimes it's obviously about the parental pressure, but I still boil it down to the partner in question.
It is understandable that sometimes parents forget their boundaries because they've always seen you as, hey, that's my kid.
Yeah.
Right? But sometimes you also need to step up to make them remember you're not a kid anymore.
There's a difference between being their kid and being a kid.
A kid.
And that's something that both the parents and
children need to understand.
Yeah.
By just imposing your desires onto the next family, you're causing problems in the next family.
See, it can start from very basic stuff, from let's say even the inception, the ceremony. It can gradually seep into where you're gonna live, what decor you're gonna have in your house.
Yes.
Don't let your parents, no matter how good they may be, no matter how positive their intentions towards you and your relationship and your marriage and your existence as a couple, don't let them into your relationship. The moment you let other people between yourselves, be it your parents, be it your siblings, be it your friends, it's not a good thing.
And I'll put it this way, half the time, a lot of times, it's not even the parents' fault. They're not trying to get into your relationship. They're just giving you advice as they would to anybody.
Yeah.
But in your obligation of, oh, it's my parents, I must listen to them, you follow everything they say. You don't apply your own brains, or you don't apply the situation to your family. You don't look at anything critically. You just say, my parent said this. While your parent is hoping that I'll give him advice or I'll give her advice.
And they'll apply their own two brain cells
to their own situations, to their own family. But what we want to make clear here is, it's not that don't take advice from your parents, don't throw them out.
Exactly. I'm just saying the decision should lie with you.
Both the spouses, that's who the decision lies with.
Yes.
Right? So suggestions can happen. You can take advice. It is a good thing always to take suggestions and advice.
Yes.
But it's only as good as the reasoning applied to that suggestion.
Other ways in which you might end up prioritizing your birth family or your friends, I would say, actually loop into that,
That is-
because it's not just about your birth family. A lot of people also prioritize their friends over their spouse, which to me is problematic, because your spouse should be your topmost priority.
Both guys and girls.
Yes, prioritize your spouse. I'm not saying discard
It is
every
your
other.
spouse after all.
Don't discard every other entity from your life. Don't yeet your friends. Don't yeet your siblings and your parents out of your life, and don't make them feel like, I won't do anything for you because now I have a spouse.
That is what means to say priority. You should prioritize your spouse, but they're not the only person.
And so many times it happens, obviously, this whole thing of, prioritizing your people around you as a whole. People end up giving so much weightage to society's checklist. But you end up giving so much priority to their checklist, their idea of what is good for you, that your criteria for selecting a spouse is absolutely messed up.
You should have this much money, you should have this kind of job. If it's a corporate job, if it's a business, risks.
But
And
also businesses have
a lot of money. Job guys can only have that much money. Essentially, this whole gossip culture should not dictate your life's decisions.
Because
Gossip, anti-gossip especially, least of all. Anti-gossip should not dictate who you choose to marry.
if it's related to their, superficial appearance, I mean, I'm not saying go
See.
marry a Aggo who you find in Aggo. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
Do choose
After
someone
marriage-
you're attracted to, but don't go by a baseline checklist of how tall,
Don't
how
just-
fair,
don't-
how
and
whatever.
not just that, don't just do someone that you're attracted to.
Exactly.
Let's say you think somebody has itch for brains, but they look very pretty.
Looks only go so long. There's gonna be a point after which they're not gonna look the same way as based on which you have selected them.
Basically-
What happens then if there is no depth to your relationship beyond your looks? What happens the point they don't look like they used to?
Basically, don't have the myopic view of they look pretty and I'm gonna marry them. Have the broader perspective that they look pretty now. That does matter to a certain
Obviously.
extent. Yeah. But I'm not marrying them just for now. I'm marrying them now, but not just for now.
Exactly.
I'm marrying them for the next 40, 50, 60, whatever years I will live on.
Exactly.
For rest of my life.
Yes.
Marriage is not, it's not a,
Ephemeral thing. It's not.
it is not, it is a forever thing.
Yes.
You don't give up on marriage. And if you go with a foot out the door before you ever see the door, you never meant it as a permanent thing. Then it's just a,
Yeah, you're
how about
gonna.
just be friends then? Why marry?
Yeah, if you're just looking at them as a pretty person or whatever, just probably gonna end up with pretty person one, and then you're gonna be looking at pretty person two maybe down the line. Because
There's always the grass
there's
is
always
greener.
exactly, if that is your sole criteria, there is always someone who's gonna be pretty.
Same thing for money or job.
Yeah, there's always gonna be someone who's richer.
Who's richer, who's
More stable.
talented, I guess, or more stable. Maybe they'll even be interested in you. But if your marriage is only valued on what job they have, how much money they have, how do they look, then
How much money their whole family has.
yes, then all of these things are things that can be taken away. Marriage is such a permanent thing, and therefore the basis for marriage, basis for the choosing your life partner, again, life partner, should be something that is not
Temporary.
ephemeral or temporary,
Yeah.
something that cannot be taken away.
Exactly.
Sure, it's gonna sound spiritual, your undying soul.
Your innate quality.
Your
What
innate
makes
quality.
you you?
Your personality, exactly. What makes you you? And personality does not mean what your height is. This needs to be said, for especially to Indians. Height does not dictate personality.
Or
It's how-
pretty does not dictate personality.
It's how you talk and how you present yourself. And
It's about your thought process. It's what
Thought
makes you think of what's right and what's wrong. It's your
Value
innate
system.
moral compass.
it's your value system.
Yes. And if you're going for very temporary stuff like looks and money, what comes after? Money
Essentially-
can be taken away. Looks will eventually fade. If you're not going any deeper than that, let's say, even if you want to prioritize money, I would rather be like, hey, how about you looking at money? Look at how driven the person is.
And-
Their capability, their drive, their passion to do something is much more valuable than the value of the money in their pockets.
I'll quote Viktor Frankle here. Somebody much smarter than I am. Read Man's Search for Meaning. The author said man. So
Yeah.
you can take every single thing away from a man, but you cannot take his perspective.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that you can never take away. You can never take away how you choose to think about something.
Or look at something. Or
Your value system,
Yeah.
your perspective,
Yeah.
how you choose to orient yourself to any given situation, that is the one thing that can never be taken away from you. You can, your hands, eyes, your body, your life, your money, everything, your degree, everything can be taken away from you.
Yes.
But how you choose to behave in that situation, how you choose to think in that situation, how you orient yourself in that situation, that cannot be taken away.
That stays
And
with
that that orientation is, and the basis of that orientation, the value structure, is what should make you decide if this person is going to be my life partner or not.
Society has very surface level things that they consider a criteria for selection, because most people don't want to do that hard work. Most people don't feel that they're capable of doing that hard work. So they have chosen certain surface level
Not even
criteria.
people. Most people don't even think about it.
Yeah. So as an average, society has come up with certain surface level criteria which they feel will give a quantifiable assessment of who is right for you. Each person has seen enough, like
Each person
they have
has-
seen their parents, they have
Yes.
seen uncles and aunties in their neighborhood, they have known parents of their friends, so on and so forth. That gives
And
you at least a baseline referential of what a good and bad relationship looks like. And based off of that, definitely there are a lot of red flags, and you have, as does anyone, that's just an evolutionary thing, you look at the negative aspects first. You don't need to safeguard from the positive stuff, you will look at the negative stuff.
Things
And
you want to avoid, things you could learn from them. Oh, I don't want this, I don't want this.
yeah, so
what are
everyone,
the problems?
what builds the personality checklist of what would you would like in a person as their behavioral patterns is something you have decided based on your own experience, stuff you have read, listened to, whatever. And eventually what's going to happen is, and what has happened overall, is that so many people look at these behavioral patterns and be like, hey, this stuff happens when people are married. How about just cut out the middleman? No marriage, no headaches.
They saw 4 people eat bagels and not like them. So they thought the problem must be the bagels.
Yes,
Right? So all bagels everywhere are just wrong.
the bagels are evil bagels.
So that's essentially what it is. It's not that they had partial successes. They don't want to look at the partial successes. They don't look at the failures being partial. They see the institution as a whole has failed. Which
Marriage has become a boogeyman.
it is a skewed perspective to say the least.
Because, see, what happens is, and I can understand why so many people do that. I definitely have all the compassion and sympathy
It's
for
just
that, because it is an obvious line of thought that you see people suffer and go through negative stuff after a certain thing they have done in life, which is getting married, which is like causation and correlation issue. Sure, so many people go through negative experiences once they get
And
married.
that's another problem. Because the negative problems are highlighted so hard, so heavily, because after marriage, the consequences of divorce or a failed marriage are very, very
Definitely.
punitive. Let's say.
No, but that's what I wanted to get into, the causation and correlation thing, because so many people look at getting married
As
as,
the cause of it.
whereas there is a correlation between getting married and having a negative experience in that. What is an actual causation is what most people don't look at. There are certain, if you actually delve deeper into what's leading to those issues in a married life, if you actually go into what's causing those pitfalls and how to actually try and avoid
What was the-
those specific issues instead of avoiding marriage as a whole, that would actually
What
lead
were
to
the
solving.
mistakes that caused
Yeah.
this? Everybody's looking at the pathway and they're seeing different people make different wrong turns.
Yeah.
And instead of looking at, oh, I must avoid this wrong turn, I must avoid this wrong turn, they're saying the pathway itself is wrong.
Exactly, just don't go down that road. That's where a lot of muggings happen. Obviously, if you don't dive deeper, if you don't figure out what is causing those specific issues, you think marriage is the only relationship where this stuff will come out? You don't think those negative behaviors will reflect in your relationships with your friends or your siblings and so on and so forth. Sure, it comes out in a much more stark way when you're married, because
Because friends can walk away.
not just that, I feel spouses are much more intimately connected at an emotional and spiritual
Obviously.
level, and the amount of transparency that does end up happening between two spouses is not comparable to anything else. And when you're that transparent and open with any other person, you see the flaws very clear.
I don't think you can be that transparent with any other person without marrying them. Right?
Yeah.
You can delude yourself into thinking that, but ultimately you want to spend your life with them. Forever.
You see the flaws, and you
Once you see somebody so absolutely, and you accept them for who they are, and you show yourself absolutely, and they accept you for who you are, I don't think there's any other way. You just gotta marry.
Yeah, no, but that's what
you
I
can
mean.
just some people if you I've seen this happen also. We've both heard examples of this where people are scared of the marriage name, so they won't give it that name, but essentially for all intents and purposes
Yeah.
they are married.
Yeah, they just don't have that, particular stamp on their relationship. They don't have that tag to their relationship.
For
But
example,
what they are is essentially married. Once you are that transparent, that open with your partner or your spouse, it is scary. It is scary to open up that much to a person. It is scary accepting another person with their positives and negatives. Seeing flaws makes people want to run. Showing your flaws makes you want to run even more. And it's hard. And sometimes
And
the hard things are worth it.
I also have a very hot take, super hot take. All live-in relationships are de facto marriages, and all failed live-in relationships are de facto divorces.
Yeah, it's scary opening up to someone. Some scary things are really worth it. And yeah,
I mean, I can vouch for it.
marriage is not for telling the world. Yeah, obviously that's the thing.
That's when you're happy, you tell the world. Why do you celebrate birthdays then? Right?
Exactly. Like,
Celebrating.
I know when I was born.
I've
I
got
had
that
my birth
excuse too.
certificate.
I'm
Yeah.
scared people have given that excuse too, and I don't want to put that tag on because it's between me and my spouse. Why should I treat the rest of the world? Well, then don't celebrate any birthdays. Don't ever do any party because you're happy.
Exactly.
Because that's essentially what marriage party is. Right?
That's a wedding party.
That's
It's
a-
literally called a wedding party. But that is what has happened with this whole situation where people have boiled down the crux of marriage so much that they have lost the depth of what it means to actually be married. People go into or don't go into a marriage thinking it's something else entirely. Their ideas of marriage are completely messed up. That is part of the reason why I feel like so many people are not open to the idea of committing, is because what they feel they are committing to is just a transaction, a trade of what they can get out of something while giving the least. Many people just try to boil it down to affection is just your hormonal, your neurons firing off. That's the physiological.
Sherlock.
That's the physiological symptoms of that emotion. They may go hand in hand, but that does not boil it down to a couple chemical atoms floating around in your body.
I mean, yeah, sure, that also happens. Your point being,
Is that so bad? If you try to boil down everything to a mathematical and scientific probability, well, that's all you're going to see because that's all you're looking for.
the problem is that doesn't even work because it's extremely improbable. All of this is extremely improbable. Life on Earth is extremely improbable. So, what, you're just going to say, yeah, but that's just mathematics or something, a chance. How many times are you going to just name chance?
Basically, marriage is way deeper than a transactional trade. Marriage is way deeper than enjoying the company of another person. Marriage goes way deeper than any of this stuff, and people have reduced its depth so much. Is one of the reasons why they don't look at marriage as something they want to commit to. A person you're committing to for so many hours of your remainder of your life, the person you're committing to raising kids with, the person you're committing to going through every hardship of life
Grow old
with. That's not based on fleeting ephemeral hormonal BS.
Or shouldn't be at least.
Or shouldn't be. If you're in for the long game, that's not something you should
That's not
base
going to
it on.
last very long.
People wanna make it about looking at the issues and just blaming the situations and whatnots, and while not working on themselves at all, trying to be in a constant state of escapism. They do not want to be faced by reality. It's not, again, I know it's marriage, but it's not just marriage. Eventually that sort of mindset is going to start seeping into every other relationship of yours. So don't blame the institution. Look into what's driving you. I am not talking about getting married at a ripe age of 20, 21, and I'm not encouraging.
Our argument is not related to when you get married. Our argument is more related to why you get married.
Having a proper mindset regarding your married life and your partner, both. Don't delude yourself. Just think things through. That's all for today. It was a very in-depth podcast, and I hope it has helped give some clarity to you guys about how you need to go about processing things and do some deep thinking, deep dive. Do send us your comments, comment below, and what your idea of marriage is, and how you feel people are, what is motivating people to circumvent the whole institution of marriage, and why that shouldn't be the scenario and you're really missing out on something good in life. Thank you for staying with us for so long. See you next time.